Hey, Jordan, you're muted.
Pretend that didn't happen. Anyway.
Quick rerun, 20 seconds back.
Yeah. Anyway. Hello and welcome to Journey Intelligence Weekly, your briefing on the latest news and trends in the world of AI. I'm Jordan Roberts, here with Mark Pizzulli, and we're both from Journey Alliance, the proud sponsors of this series. So before we get started, we, as always, would like this to be as interactive as possible. So if you have any comments or questions, please drop them in the chat, and we will try to incorporate them as we go along. And if at any point you're thinking to yourself that you would like to start using AI in your work, start applying these things that we're talking about, you can scan that QR code in the corner there, and it will take you to our website where you can learn more about our AI training for work. And we're going to switch it up this week a little bit. Normally we would start with our news topics, but Mark actually has a use case for AI. It's a prompt generator that we're going to start with that, and then we'll jump into some of the more relevant news stories this week. So I'll let you kick it off, Mark.
Yep. So let's pull this up here. So first of all, let me just talk about so I'm going to show you today couple things. I'm going to show you how to use a project lightly, right? So you can see how project instructions kind of work. And the particular instructions I'm going to show you, I made a project. I have a project I use to create sophisticated prompts. So I'm going to share kind of how the instructions on this project work to create a sophisticated prompt. And I'll walk you through the whole thing. So let's bring it up here. And hopefully that's big enough. Actually, let me move things around a little bit here. Let's go this way instead. So this is the prompt. Jordan's going to share it out in the chat window as well, so you have it. It's not the prompt, it's the instructions for the project, right? And so the project is going to act like an expert prompt creator. I'm not going to read the entire thing to you, but you get the idea here, right? What to do.
Sorry, Mark.
Yeah.
On projects, if you don't know what a project is, it's something in ChatGPT. You can give it specific instructions, and then you don't have to repeat those instructions. Mark, you might describe it better, but I just want to make sure everybody knows what a project is in ChatGPT.
Yeah, fair point. So you only have projects available to you if you have a paid account. That's first thing that's important to note. And you can create as many projects as you want, and then you can have multiple chats inside a project. So that enables you to really to kind of have a reusable set of instructions, if you will. It's a bit like a GPT, much faster to set up. You can also give it some reference documentation, easier to maintain because you can just open this up. You'll see like right here, right? I can just open my instructions and change them. I can add project files. This one has none. So you can really maintain them a lot easier. So if I'll get back to the particular instructions we put in this prompt generator, right? So we're basically just telling it, this is the high level problem we're trying to solve, right? What's this project for, right? In this case, it's a prompt generator, right? We want it to be a really high level prompt generator. And then I've given it a series of steps I want it to go through. So when it generates a prompt, it is going to output for me, right? So this is a template. It's going to output for me the prompt that it's giving me. Okay, and it's going to provide the best possible prompt according to my requests. And then it's going to summarize any of my prior messages and provide them as an example of my communication style. So you can leave this line in or out. It doesn't really have an impact. But if you want the prompt to sound like you wrote it and use your communication style, then you'll leave it in. And then right after it writes the prompt, it's going to give you a critique of the prompt. So it's going to run the prompt back through and tell you what it thinks, it's going to be critical, right? We're saying it's simple paragraph, be critical in the response, and it should just be constructive criticism about the prompt and point out anything about the prompt that's weak. And the goal here is to give you something and then tell you how it might be improved. And then there's some additional questions. It's going to ask you 3 questions that are additional information you might want to include in the prompt to clarify certain areas, fill gaps, get additional details. And then basically you answer as the user, right? It's giving you an opportunity for me to provide my answers back to ChatGPT, right? And then it will repeat this loop. And it will then give me a prompt back again, and then give me a critique and ask me more questions. You can iterate over this as many times as you want, until you get the prompt you're looking for. So it really gives you an opportunity to flesh out a very, very detailed prompt. I'm not advocating that you use a system like this for a really simple, straightforward, I just have this one problem I have to solve one time. But if you're writing something that is reusable and you're writing something somewhat complex, or you're writing a deep research prompt and you want it to be really robust, and you don't want to have to run the research twice, right? So you want to make sure you get the prompt right the first time. This is a great way to make sure that you've fully fleshed out your prompt. And then at the end, it's just pointing out that the prompt should be written from the user's perspective, and I'm making a request to ChatGPT, which is important. Otherwise, it can get a little bit muddy. And it gives an example of how it might start. You're an expert, right? And then we're just kind of we're allowing it to be creative, right? Think carefully, use your imagination, kind of giving it a little permission to be creative. And then, right, just some basics about what the first response should be. So what this looks like in action is the following. Now it's setting my instructions for the project. And so I come in here and I just start a new chat in this project. So I'm in my prompt generator project, and I'm just going to start a new chat here. Okay. And so in this particular case, I'm going to have the prompt generator create a prompt that will help me create a business plan based on an idea, right? So I come with an idea. My goal is to have a prompt that I come with an idea, and it's going to help me flesh out a business plan. It's for some unknown business, right? So it will work for any idea. It'll help you flesh out a business plan. That's the goal of what I'm trying to do. And then at the end, I wanted to write up an action plan for the first 8 weeks to get it off the ground. So I've asked it specifically for a dynamic questioning prompt, which is a type of prompt where it asks me questions one at a time and continues to kind of peel back the layers of the onion, if you will. So let's see what it does with it. I'm using ChatGPT O4 Mini primarily because it's going to be fast enough for this presentation. If I was doing this for myself for real, I would likely use O3 and allow it to work a little bit slower and think a little bit more. So just like I asked it to do, it's like, okay, I'd love to help you create this prompt. Give me some more information, right? And so what's interesting here is it's actually trying to kind of go to that next step. I don't want it to go to the next step. I want the prompt, right, to identify this. So
Oh, so it kind of didn't understand.
it didn't completely understand, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just telling it, which is probably going to answer all these questions. Question 2, I like the prompt to focus on the most important details to include in a business plan. Okay. 3 question style.
Yeah. Well, you answer this though. I think you're just gonna do the first 2 questions for it.
Yeah, because I think it's gonna. So now, okay, now it came back with what I'm actually asking for. So, all right, now I'm telling ChatGPT it's going to act as an expert business strategist tasked with guiding an entrepreneur through the creation of a comprehensive business plan. So this is exactly what I'm asking for, right? Using a dynamic, interactive questioning approach, ask me to define and elaborate on each critical element of a startup, including but not limited to, right? And so these are all the things that are going to go through, that it's going to go through and helping me build out the business plan. And then after gathering responses for each section, right? So it's going to go through these sections probably one at a time, asking multiple questions per section. Present a consolidated draft business plan outline for my review. Once I confirm that the outline covers all the essential aspects, generate a detailed week-by-week action plan for the first 8 weeks of launch, specifying key milestones, deliverables, and responsible roles. So, and then it's got my communication style. So this is the prompt. If you decide this is good enough, you would just take this section of the output, right? All of this stuff up here, from here to here, and say, okay, I'm good to go. Copy this, take it, go and run it, right? But what if I'm not happy with it? Like, let's read the critique. And I'm not going to read it to you, but you can see the critique here as it critiques the prompt. And then it has some additional questions. No, I don't really have a particular tone or style. I'm not worried about that. Particular outline, probably not worried about that either. Would you like to include any specific? Actually, maybe it should be slide deck ready. So,
yeah.
I hadn't thought of that. It's a great idea that it had there. So, right. And I do not want to make it industry specific, right? So I'm going to leave it entirely. I'm going to basically, I don't want it to, I want it to be open for anyone to use, if you will. So, okay, so let's see what it comes back with here. I'm thinking it's going to look fairly similar, but it's going to have made, right? So now it's thinking of slides, right? And then it's keeping the deck nice and short. Some of these things might be more than one slide normally. Okay, so you've got the same thing. You got a critique, and then now it's going, maybe I do need more than 10 slides. How many slides would you like for the initial plan? Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to say, let's keep it to 20 slides. Okay. I'm not going to take anything of the rest.
Yeah.
I'm going to placeholders for charts would be great. And then here we have our prompt again, right? And it's actually kind of breaking the sections breaking it into sections for you. And you can see how, you've really got a detailed workflow it's going to run you through to get a good analysis of what you're after. Again, you get your critique and your questions, but if you're good with this, you just copy and paste it, and that becomes the prompt you have available. So that's how
yeah, well, I was going to say, the directions that you gave the project, the answers that it's giving you here, if you notice, they're really detailed, they're really long. I think that's important to know, is a good prompt gives a lot of context, like these are doing. It lays out exactly what you want. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is that they're not giving enough context in prompting. So they're not quite getting what they want out of it.
And what's interesting is, if you do something this way, again, this is for a more complex topic, right? But you're likely, ChatGPT is likely to give you back something you didn't think of. And then that'll be included in your prompt that maybe you wouldn't have thought of it. And so you're going to you'll get a more robust final output than you would have otherwise. I'm not saying you shouldn't come in and edit this, but like it gives you just a great template to work with. And so this is just one way you could really improve your outputs from ChatGPT, specifically for larger projects, right? Larger when you're trying to work on something that's a more significant output. This is not draft me an email. I wouldn't come into this and be like, write me a prompt to draft an email. Like that's
no,
right?
that can be a
you could have wrote the email, right? So
yeah,
so
that one's really cool.
Yeah. And again, for everyone, totally want this to be totally interactive. So if you have any questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat. We'll try to get them answered as quickly as we can.
Yeah. And if you're interested in that prompt, the 2 comments that I've left, or if you're watching on YouTube, the several comments that I've left, that is the prompt for you. Are there any other things that we think people should know about the prompt generator here, Mark?
No,
I totally just said that wrong. Those comments that I left are the directions for the project. They are not the prompt. This is a project.
They're the instructions for the project. So you would put them in that place that I kind of basically from that standpoint, you'd come here, you'd click new project. I'm just going to call it new project, right? You click create project, and then it's going to give you a mostly blank looking screen, and you add the instructions right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay? And then you'd have your new project that does whatever you asked it to do.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. So from there, I will move into the news stories now that we've covered a pretty cool use case there. So Mark, what have you heard in the news this week on AI?
So I think one of the most interesting things happening is that OpenAI is essentially in like completely open warfare with Microsoft now, which is kind of stunning. Microsoft funded OpenAI, I believe, with $10 billion when it first was starting up. It was a nonprofit at the time. And so the way that they just didn't expect to be competing with them one day. So now here we are years later, and now they're competing. OpenAI's announced that it's going to launch a full AI-based Office suite. And I don't know for most people fully appreciate, but Microsoft Office is the flagship product for Microsoft now. They make more money off of Microsoft Office than they do off of any other product. And so that's quite threatening to Microsoft. And they're still they're still a partial owner of OpenAI. So I think it's pretty interesting from that perspective. But then I want to dig into the details of what they're saying they're going to release, which sounds really cool. It's an AI first productivity suite. And they're expecting an early beta to land before the end of the year. It will include docs, sheets, presentations, and something called AI Pages, which is more about structured data, so that you have a way to work with structured data. I imagine it's going to feel a little bit like ChatGPT Canvas mode does, right? So it's going to feel a little bit like you're working in ChatGPT and you have everything in Canvas mode, chat bar off to the left. And then it kind of rewrites and updates content for you, and you can collaborate with it. You can update the content directly. You can chat with it to update the content. I think the most interesting thing is they're expecting it to go live with 50 different SaaS app integrations. So one SaaS app that they're already playing nicely with is HubSpot. I would expect that to be one of those. And so imagine you're drafting something based on HubSpot data, either one client's data or like a whole broad number of clients' data, and you could just pull it via a query, right? Hey, tell me what we need to know about this group of customers, and like it can pull the data back for you and give you statistics about that. So I think that's a really interesting concept. Microsoft is always going to have to move slower here. They just have a lot of they can't take any risks with the amount of revenue they have at stake. So ChatGPT is likely to get in front of them on this, and so it'll be interesting to see. The other challenge ChatGPT is going to have here, though, is that most people are getting Office now bundled in with their email, and they don't really have a way to unbundle it. So, I mean, I guess technically when I think about our Microsoft license, you can unbundle it, but it could take years. But for startups, this is really compelling. Pricing is rumored to be like $30 to $45 per user per month. So quite a bit more expensive than Microsoft Office is today, which is coming in at like $12 a month per user. So
yeah, that'll probably be a barrier for them. But it would be so nice to have, because I use ChatGPT so much, and I know that's not just me. Everybody's kind of moving towards, if it's not ChatGPT, it's Claude or whatever, having that integrated in one place where I can ask these questions and treat it more like an assistant in that way, that would be so nice. And that's, so many people are asking if that's possible. So that's definitely, it sounds like that's really where they're moving and trying to accomplish.
Let me touch on one other thing here that between the Microsoft OpenAI thing. So there's this little company called Windsurf that some people have heard of now that maybe they hadn't before. Windsurf was kind of up on the market to be sold a few weeks ago. OpenAI was going to buy them. Windsurf competes. They kind of have a product like Cursor. So they were, they're in that marketplace where they basically are a coding IDE. They're a development environment for coders that's AI powered, right? So OpenAI is going to buy them. Microsoft had put in something in their investment clause with OpenAI that they get the IP for anything OpenAI buys. So they would have access to the IP for anything OpenAI acquires. That blew the deal up. The fact that Microsoft came knocking and said, hey, you're going to have to send us that IP once you acquire the company, blew the deal up. And then essentially, like, Google swooped in and stole all the key staff from this company. But they only took the engineers and the partners that founded it. So they took the founders and the engineers, they took all the technical talent, and they left 350 employees with no kind of ownership group, right, to speak of, and no engineers to help build a product out. So it's this crazy story. And then at the wire, when no one was really sure what was going to happen to Windsurf, a company called Cognition, which has an app called Devin, and Devin happens to have access to government contracts because it's already approved to sell to the government for it's on FedRAMP, so it can already sell to the government. They swooped in and bought Windsurf, but they bought the shell of Windsurf with all the sales and marketing staff. So they felt like that was a good fit for them, and they came in and bought Windsurf at pennies on the dollar, and basically swept up their sales and marketing staff to combine with a product that they have called Devin. So it's a really crazy story. It's getting extremely competitive in the AI industry, if you will. Engineers are getting offered ridiculous, like 7-figure salaries. Founders,
I'm not good at math.
Yeah, founders typically will not leave a startup that's doing well because there's $1 billion payday, right? They might get $1 billion payday one day. Well, in this case, they got paid $1 billion to leave their startup, right? Which is just nuts. So they got their payday without actually having to sell the startup. The problem is when they left, all the employees that had equity, their equity values went through the floor. So yeah, it's really like, it's kind of it's a sad little twisty story, but all that to say, Microsoft and OpenAI are not friends right now. And I don't envision them getting buddy-buddy anytime in the future, even though Microsoft's an investor in OpenAI. So
yeah, probably not. Well, in other large AI company news, so Anthropic, which is the company behind Claude, has introduced Claude for financial services. So it plugs live market feeds like S&P, FactSet into firms' own databases like Databricks, and it can run complex analysis without manual data stitching. So it has higher token limits, which means it can process more information. Essentially, am I saying that right? I have to rely on Mark's expertise sometimes with these terms here. Yeah. So, and it has pre-built data connectors, which means analysts can process huge reports very quickly. So, I mean, that's a pretty cool move, and probably a little alarming for some financial analysts. Perplexity is also doing something similar, where they kind of combine the S&P data and the stock market. I have it pulled up on my screen, the free version of it. It's pretty cool. You get like a dashboard of what the stocks look like. The news stories are there as well. So I just foresee that becoming something that maybe you could use in your personal finance, but also in business finance. And it's relatively affordable for from what I can see. There's a free tier for some of them, and then $40 a month, $20 a month. I don't know how that's based on users, but I expect that will continue to improve and become more reliable. So that's something that small businesses could absolutely lean on for financial data.
It's interesting because what we're seeing is, right, so we've got, Claude Code, if you will, and then we've got Perplexity Finance, Claude Finance, like ChatGPT's got this the study with me thing. Like we're seeing kind of niche down products with very specific applications in a certain space. So it's really interesting to see how all these companies are trying to address different markets in a much more meaningful way, with more targeted type products, if you will, or services. So.
Yeah, well, and speaking of more targeted products, so Claude, again, they have integrated with Canva. If you don't know Canva, it's this very simple graphic design kind of platform. Anybody pretty much can pick it up and make a design. 20 minutes, really all it takes to figure out. It's very easy. Anyway, Claude has integrated with that, so you can create Canva designs without leaving the Claude chat window. So if you have Canva, you can use Claude to generate and edit brand assets through prompts. So you can autofill your brand kits, resize images, do design variations based on your prompt. It is limited to Claude Pro and Team tiers for now. It supports PDF, PowerPoint, and GIF export directly from Conversation. So pretty cool stuff. I know there's a huge limitation in what something like ChatGPT's image generation can do. So seeing it integrated with something like Canva so that you can actually put in your brand kit, like that's pretty incredible actually, and super handy if you're running on a smaller team. And I actually think I'm going to try that one. I'm a ChatGPT fan myself, but I love Canva, and being able to combine the two, that would be awesome. So I'm actually really excited about that one personally.
I think what's interesting is like Canva is a super usable tool. Like you said, anyone can use it, and yet like the ability to use Claude integrated with it allows you to use it even faster, if you will, right? And then kind of amp it up from there. So yeah, that's really interesting. Hey everyone, I noticed those of you watching, I think on LinkedIn, the prompt got clipped, so I just put the remaining parts of it in there again that we're missing from before. So
thank you. I thought I caught it all.
Yeah, I think you did. I think it literally got clipped by the system. So I don't think you because it went through fine to YouTube. So anyway.
Classic.
So I've got one quick little final story. Those of you still on the fence about AI, I don't know why you're watching this, but if you're watching this and you're still on the fence about AI, this is a real interesting. So Deloitte and the USC Marshall School of Business, right? So they wrote a brief, and they did some quick research of recent 10K filings, which are the filings that public companies make, and they found that 75% of S&P 500 companies are now citing AI as a material risk in their filings for a variety of reasons, right? Those concerns range from ethical misuse to operational outages to regulatory crackdowns. But like, if you're sitting on the sidelines thinking this is a fad, this isn't really going to happen, like 75% of large public companies would disagree, right? So I think that's a real thing you need to think about. It was different per sector. Financial services saw the biggest jump. In the past, 58% of them had already included something. Now, 84% of financial services companies see AI as some kind of a risk to their business. So the number one is still cybersecurity. right? That people are using AI to kind of break into their companies. But 42% of them think that someone might make a mistake with AI internally, which could disrupt their operations. And 28% think that some kind of reputational harm could come from biased outputs from AI. So when you think about that, like, I mean, they're using AI. There's no question about they're using it. That's why they're listing these things off, or they at least know their employees are using it. So I think this is very much like, the internet didn't feel quite as effective. Like today, you can't live without it, right? But like when it first came out, you're kind of like, okay, right? Like that's kind of nice. I think we're very much in that. When we look back in 5 years, 10 years, it's going to be like, well, what was I thinking? How did I ever get along without this?
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're headed. So I know we're about a minute over. Apologize for that, everyone, but appreciate you showing up today.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.